You're watching the 2024 SCAC Football Media Days. The SCAC welcoming back the sport of football for the first time since 2016. And we're getting things kicked off with Media Days this year. Today, we're taking a look at the Lyon College Scots. We're joined by head coach Chris Douglas, along with sophomore running back Jaylin and junior defensive lineman Keidrick Wooten. Coach Jaylin, Keidrick, thanks so much for joining us today.
Hey, thank you, Russell. We're excited to be here, and we're really excited about kicking SCAC off first out the gate, but also back at it with football.
Coach, we'll open things up with you. You take over this program back in 2020. You're coming off a season in which the team went 4-4, first 500 season or better since 2019, the most wins in a single season in your tenure there. What have you learned with this group as you've taken over and started to put your fingerprints on this program over the last couple of years? And, as always, here we are, fall camp. It's finally arrived. What are you most excited about with this group as you embark on this new chapter of Lyon College football?
Yeah, last year was the fourth year that we'd really had our hands on the program. And so that recruiting class that we inherited in the summer really of 2020 when I got here, took the job late spring, was a group that we didn't necessarily recruit, but we inherited. And so we really got to pour into them quite a bit. And even though these two guys were part of the class after that, that class really was the corner getting turned. As far as the culture, as far as leadership within the group, I'm a big believer that when you take over a program, it takes time for the message to really sink in. And I really felt like culturally we had turned the corner. We had really strong leadership from a group of seniors, and we're very excited to have a few of those guys back that are using, this is the last year we can use COVID as an excuse. We can use COVID as an eligibility. And so we have about 3 or 4 of those guys that are coming back for their 5th year. And so they're just going to really enhance now the group that we first recruited, with 2 examples right here, that really have culturally shifted who we are and who we're about. And so also making this move from NAI to Division III, I think has been kind of part of that tipping point as well. Where we're now in a spot where I feel like the players can lead. I talk to our coaching staff all the time. It's our program, we want it to be coach-fed, but we need it to be player-led. And so I really feel like I'm super excited that our first recruiting class is now seniors, and we have some 5th-year seniors back. They're going to really be able to drive the momentum and drive the message home with a lot of young guys. I'm also really excited. We've had the most retention that Lyon College football has seen in its 10 years of existence. This is actually our 10th season of football since we brought it back in the early, when it was dropped in the early 50s. And so we're super excited about that as well. But it's really about culturally where we're at. And I even had that message for the guys today in one of our early meetings before we hit the practice field is everything that we do leading into practice, what happens in the locker room, what's said in the dorms, the influence and the impact that upperclassmen and leaders that know the Lyon way, which is how we frame our culture, is really, that's what's going to drive that success on the field. I think players, when they're young and they don't recognize some of these things, they just think it's about what happens between the white lines, and that's just a small part of it. It's like coaches that we hire. I think they think that 90% of college football is X's and O's and scheming, and that's probably about 5% of what we do. And so it really is all the outside stuff that impacts what's going to happen on Saturday. So I feel like programmatic-wise, we're right there on the tipping point. We're right there on the edge where we can make a breakthrough, and I feel like we've got every opportunity this year to be able to do that. So that's what helps get me up early in the morning to go attack this day.
Jaylin, coming into this season, last year coming off a year offensively in which you really stood out on that side of the ball, led the team in terms of rushing yards, over 320 yards on the ground last year, first in the team in terms of rushing touchdowns, 4 times hitting pay dirt rushing last season. Just, how much did that experience, those amount of reps in game at the collegiate level, help build your confidence coming into this season? And what are you most excited about now, coming back now, heading into this a new year and a new era of Lyon football?
I mean, yeah, I'm excited. Like Coach said, it's football time again. So, of course, I'm excited. Last season, although it was kind of an independent, shaky season, I felt like I really started to find a stride in the offense. And, that's credit to Coach Douglas and our offensive coordinator, Coach Lyon, for trusting me with the ball a lot in time. So I'm really thankful and blessed for that. And, I'm just excited to get back to it. Our offense is really starting to, like you said, we have a lot of retention with a lot of returners coming back on offense. So we're starting to find our stride with that. And we're starting to get more confident running this and that and working out the kinks and just getting everything ready, man. And I'm just excited to be in a new conference and excited to put our offense out there in this new conference. And hopefully we can get, being one of the top scoring offenses in this conference.
Keidrick, Coach talked about kind of a building of that culture and the importance of leaning on some of his veteran leadership within the program as big parts of what's being trying to build. And for you coming into this year junior season, you've had that experience, just in terms of playing and be able to just come in the program and maybe just be a student athlete. But now coming into an upperclassman season, understanding what Coach expects day in and day out, how have you sort of seen your role change within this group? How are you sort of shouldering that leadership role, and how excited you be back here in camp and kind of in maybe a bit of a different spot than you have in your previous camps coming into a season?
I feel like I got to give Coach Doug his flowers right here. He's did a great job of instilling exactly what he wants out of us as players every year as we come back. So it's like, coming in as a freshman, I kind of made some knucklehead decisions as a freshman, but picking up and Coach Doug building me and allowing me to grow as a player and as a person, he's really helped me grow into my leadership role. So I can't take all responsibility for that. But also being involved in the environment, it's like we literally like bleed Lyon football now. So it's like coming in and getting those freshmen to get under you is not as hard whenever they see that you all are like dedicated and bought into the program. So I feel like it's really not going to be it's really not that hard for me to get freshmen to get under my follow me. So I feel like that's going to be a pretty easy role to just jump into. And I'm very excited to be back. Football is football. I play defense. I'm just want to hit somebody. So just ready.
Coach, we talk about the excitement with the return of SCAC football. It feels like it's been a long time coming, going back to the announcement and Lyon joining a couple of years ago, and now finally here being at the starting line. What are the biggest challenges you expect to face coming into the SCAC? And just, from a coaching perspective, from a coaching staff perspective, is, kind of this excitement of this league coming back and debuting once again, is that something that's added a little spark to your excitement and to the staff's excitement coming in, knowing that there are going to be challenges on the horizon that are be different but exciting at the same time?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of my experience in Division III, having my last institution been there nearly a decade, and really getting a sense of the entire national landscape and regional landscape of Division III football, but yet having coaches on our staff that this is a brand new conference and some of them never even been exposed to Division III football. So I think there's that mix of the known and the unknown and expectations, and then, maybe some misunderstood or misplaced expectations on what to expect to see, day in and day out, game in and game out, when we play SCAC opponents. I'm really excited because I saw the end of the SCAC as far as a football playing conference, and now to be able to see that come back, I think it's great. Being able to expand the playoffs now to 40 is also, it fits being able to add some conferences. We've seen some conferences in the Northeast split and create new AQs. The change in the AQ system as well. Just all of those things have just kind of dovetailed to allow this to be able to happen. It's almost like the stars aligning. And so I've always been very big with administration when I talk with them about how we can be successful, particularly at the Division III level. Being in the right conference is really important. We talk in recruiting all the time about fit. We want a player that's going to fit the expectations of the school, the academic rigor, expectations of the program, fellow players. And so we try to get that exposure for those recruits. Well, it's the same thing for a school. I'm super excited about SCAC play because the institutions that are in the SCAC are very much like us. High academic rigor, high admission standards, small, liberal arts, just very similar to us. And I think that puts us on a lot of equal footing and allows us to be able, our potential to be competitive. And so, it's going to be a growth for sure. I mean, we got some pretty strong teams that have been in one of the strongest conferences in the nation football-wise for several years, and that experience is going to be strong. It's going to be good for them. They're going to come out of the gate probably, ready to go. And our guys we'll be searching a little bit. We'll be trying to figure some things out. We've got teams that I've never seen play before, like Texas Lutheran and Austin College. And so it's going to be unique, even in that aspect for us in the evaluation process and knowing what to expect. But the good thing is we've had a chance, and this is purposely why Coach Neal and I got together, at least on my end of things, to be able to play a non-con last year against McMurray, because I knew that they would probably be toward the top of the conference in just expected performance. And so I wanted to get that sense of what it's going to be like a year early before we jump into SCAC play. So I think that's going to bode well for us going in, and we know where we've got to perform, and we've got to match that in practice.
Jaylin, kind of similar, just from a student athlete's perspective, coming into the SCAC, has that added a sense of urgency and buzz within the team, heading into camp, as far as, hey, there's a championship on the line now. There's awards to be had weekly, end of the year, things that you can really put up on, kind of on a board as far as goals and aspirations, and just kind of this added new element of a season to be a part of a conference. Is that something that you're looking forward to as a student athlete? And do you feel like that's added a sense of buzz within the group coming into the season?
Yes, sir. That's always exciting. Like last season, we were independent, so we played a bunch of games that didn't necessarily count towards anything. I'm not going to say they weren't for nothing, because we did learn a lot and we gained a lot from those games. But going into a conference this season, a lot of guys are talking in the locker room like, hey, there's a conference title on the line. Hey, I want to go first team this. I want to go first team that. So it's going to get a lot of guys excited and buzzed up, like you said, and get a lot of guys to prepare and set goals like that. And I feel like for this senior class that we have, a lot of leaders on this team is going to give us all a big chance to go out with a big bang. Like, hey, we're chasing after not only wins, but we're chasing after these things as well. So it's really exciting.
Keidrick, you talked about being on that defensive side of the ball and going out and hit somebody. Last season, you're coming off a year second on the team in sacks with 3. You had 8.5 tackles for loss. You forced a fumble. Individually, what have you been working on over the course of the offseason to continue to grow your confidence and get better? And just kind of from a defensive standpoint as a whole, your side of the ball, that unit, what can fans expect to see from this group? What do you expect to be a big strength of this team on the defensive side heading into the season?
As far as me personally, just been working on perfecting my craft, so there's things that I did well to get those stats, and those also things that I saw on field that I had to work on. And then this summer, just working on my body, knowing my craft, and honing in on what I need to do to get better. And as far as the defensive unit, we had a lot of retention of those guys. So as far as like playing together and our brothership and our chemistry, that's really what I'm looking forward to seeing out of this defense this year. And as far as being able to know our roles within the playbook, that's really what I'm looking forward to, seeing us play together, play harder.
Coach, camp is such a unique part of the year in terms of a season, and bringing these guys back together, getting them back on campus and starting to set that foundation for a season. You look at your schedule, jump from 8 games last year to 10 this year. So 2 more weeks, which I know is exciting, but that's 2 more weeks on a body, 2 more weeks in the film room, those types of things. So setting those standards, setting that foundation, I'm sure is so important for you. What are your goals for this group as you get camp underway? What are you really trying to hammer home to make sure this team is as ready as they possibly can come September 7th when you hit the ground running?
Yeah, I don't know that everybody really realizes, at least from a coaching perspective, and maybe we overdo it too much too, but we have to maximize every minute. We have a really tight schedule. Our classes start early this year in comparison to our playing schedule. And so there's not a lot of leeway for a missed practice due to weather. There's not a lot of leeway for a missed meeting because something gets adjusted on a student life schedule. At least in my opinion, we have to maximize every moment. Division III has the least amount of time to prepare for a season than any other division. And so even though the game is the same, we get less opportunities to prepare for it. So we have to be more on top of our game in practice and practice prep. Again, we just had a meeting not too long ago, just an hour ago, where we emphasized the importance of knowing exactly where you are health-wise for each practice, preseason and in season, so that we can prepare as best as we can. I'm excited about camp. It's definitely going to be a unique schedule for us. We have to change some things because of our academic schedule, which is fine. That's great. I'm not too concerned about it, but again, it does make that margin for error a lot tighter. But we also bring back a lot of experience. Again, biggest retention we've had. We have 75 total returners. A big portion of those are going to be sophomores from a really big freshman class last year, but we also have 15 lettermen on the defensive side, 8 offensive lettermen. We've got 7 starters on offense. We've got 10 starters returning on defense. Their voice and just getting to the next drill led by those guys is going to be critical. Again, it's the little moments. If we start a drill 15 seconds, 30 seconds late, in my mind, that's cumulative and adds up to lack of opportunity to prepare. And again, that margin for error is, in my opinion, is so critical. So we want to be prepared as best we can going into game 1. We have to maximize every moment. So excited about it, but definitely see the pitfalls that could definitely come about if we are not on top of our game.
Jaylin, Coach talks about the retention and the importance of that continuing to grow into this season. And, we talked earlier with Coach about just how this team really found its stride as the season went on, winning 3 of your last 4 games. Offensively, as I mentioned, this team, really found its stride, scoring 28 or more points in 3 of those last 4 games, 40 or more in 2 of those last 4. And with the group coming back, what did you see change with this offense kind of in that second half of the season as you sort of defined your stride, and how will you kind of hopefully take that in and carry that offensive momentum into the season? What do you expect from this group offensively coming into the year?
I mean, kind of like what Keidrick and Coach said, it's like the retention rate and the brotherhood, because a lot of those guys on offense are returners and they are upperclassmen. And, we spend a lot of time here in the summers and the off season putting in a lot of work. So that chemistry and all that goodness is going to transfer into next season. And, now we have to take a couple of younger guys under our wing and get them on board and just continue to carry on that momentum forward. And as long as we do that, we'll be okay, because we're starting to hit those strides and we're starting to get more and more people into those leadership roles. Like myself, when I first came to Lyon, I never thought I was going to be a leader. But kind of what Keidrick said, Coach Doug kind of molded me and shaped me into a leader. And now I'm in a very big leadership role on this team, and I'm blessed to be in this role. And, like Keidrick said, getting these guys and bringing them in and taking them under your wing, it's not going to be necessarily hard because we have several people on the team that are in those leadership roles. And I feel like as long as we can continue to fill in those leadership role spots and continue to get guys bought in and on board or all in, like we say, we're going to be just fine, offensively and defensively.
Wrapping up with the student athletes, Keidrick, we talked about kind of the excitement of coming into the SCAC, the role in which you're starting to play within that leadership community within this group. As you've had conversations with some of the other leaders within this team, with your teammates, about some of the goals for this group heading into this first SCAC season, what have some of those conversations looked like, and what are some of those goals that you think you have for this group as a whole heading into this year?
Well, of course, we're all chasing that conference championship. It's going to be the first one, so we want to get it started off the gate and establish Lyon as a program and kind of build up what we've been doing for these last 3 years. So a proof of achievement, not necessarily that we need that, but it would be nice to have that. And as far as personal titles, we're really just chasing the team goals right now, as far as league-wise, and to kind of show that we got Coach Doug's back as well. Man, everything he's been doing is going to be paid off in that aspect. But yeah, that's really all we're looking for to get out of this season.
And finally, Coach, as we wrap up with you, obviously, success in our world can be defined in so many different ways, so many different metrics. When you talk about success with your men within this group, how do you try to define success? What is the message that you try and portray to this group? And ultimately, this 2024 season will look successful if what plays out on the field for this team.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got some awesome players coming back, as we mentioned, obviously with Keidrick, who should really be a first team all-conference player from a couple years back, and Jaylin, when he gets his stride, he's going to be a first-team guy as well. But we've got guys on defense like Camden Clear, Mason Davis. We've got Renee Dominique with Slayton Wheeler. We've got guys on offense like Reggie Brown and Xavier Long. We've got a returning starter in Grayson Gibson, just from up the road here, and a Will Litton on defense as well. And we've got a lot of really good players. And as I tell guys, our goal is obviously to win as many games as humanly possible. But ultimately, my long-term goal is not what we see at the end of the year. It's what we see in the next 10, in the next 20, the next 30, and next 4 years. I'm not a huge fan of mission statements, but if you were to pin me down and threaten to pull my fingernails out or hang me from chains or something like that, I would say that our mission statement is what we call 4 for 40. The 4 years that we have guys in our program, we're using football as a tool. We're using football as a conduit to try to improve people's lives. That's why they come to college. They're coming to college to set themselves up for what the next part of their life looks like. I think football has a huge impact on that. The things that they learn in the classroom are critical. They learn how to research. They learn how to communicate. They learn how to write and to really think critically for lifetime learning. But what they learn in the locker room and what they learn on the field, the leadership aspect, and working in a dynamic of a huge population of guys coming from a lot of different parts of our country and different upbringings, high socioeconomic and low socioeconomic and everywhere in between, and even different religions and belief systems, but yet for a common goal, that's what's going to be mirrored in life. And so as they learn those lessons, like these two guys have, part of our leadership group as well, we call Lyon Elites, they're going to be using these lessons in football along with what they learn in the classroom to set themselves up for success. So my long-term success, yes, and we want to win the SCAC first year out the gate for sure. We want to go undefeated. We want to win as many games as humanly possible. But more importantly, we want to see these guys graduate and go on and be great husbands and great fathers and great community leaders and employees, employers. That's ultimately, as I look back, that will be the true test of whether we made our goals or not.
Lyon College football program, the Scots, again, will open up this season under the guidance of head coach Chris Douglas, along with leadership from running back Jaylin and Keidrick Wooten on the defensive line. The Scots will kick things off on September 7th, and they go on the road at Grinnell. Coach Jaylin, Keidrick, thanks so much for your time today, and best of luck as you head into the season.
Thank you.
Thank you, Russell.